today in Dublin, a national protest against government policy.
Protestas que se ha vivido esta noche en sus calles.
Scene di guerriglia urbana a Dublino, la capitale della Repubblica d'Irlanda.
Dublin, en proie à des scènes de chaos.
Yes, 15 people have been charged with public order offences after the anti-immigration protest led to clashes with the police.
The minister is now condemning yesterday's violent protests in Dublin.
Yesterday, we experienced two terrible attacks.
It's November 2023. Emergency services rush to a primary school where 3 children have just been stabbed.
With 3 young children, an adult female and an adult male.
The news spreads that the suspect is a homeless Algerian immigrant, and people start gathering near his scene.
May have been an asylum seeker, we don't know.
Just absolute disgrace, absolute disgrace.
But as the evening fell, it turned grim.
Have you guys, now this is a personal question, I'm saying you guys, but have you guys ever experienced racism? If you have, hands up. So almost all of you. It makes me feel very emotional that at your age, you guys experience it. It makes me feel very, very emotional. Now, I want you to go back in time, in your mind, yeah? Go back to the day you experienced it, or one of the days, if you've experienced it multiple times. Go back to the very worst experience you've had, and I want you to share it.
20 minutes into the match, I was defending. They were through on goal. I came in, slide tackle, clean tackle, and then the guy was on the floor. And he asked me a question in front of my teammates, oh, where did you learn how to defend the African tribe? So then there was a massive fight that broke out. Both squads came off the bench and they were just like pushing each other, punching each other. The ref had to come and break it up. We had to go behind the dugout. And then after that, I got a red card because I got into a fight with someone and I hit them. And then there was a massive fight. And after that, then my coach told me that they're going to have to take me to the council, the board that controls the league. I went there on a Wednesday night with my coach, and I had to sit in front of all the directors, and they were explaining what happened. And at the end of the day, I got in trouble, and I got a 3-game match ban, even though it wasn't my fault. So from that, I really just took, there's a better way to handle stuff instead of throwing hands when you get called an inappropriate name. Later on, I just found out that when someone calls you a racist name, just give them a positive response, just smile back at them and make them feel more guilty.
And one of the boys at the back of the bus continued to make whip sounds, and then another one even proceeds to make a monkey sound. And we honestly just get off before our stop in Little Island. We get off in Little Island when we were meant to go to Cartier because we just couldn't honestly deal with those two boys at the back of the bus. But the fact that no one around us was standing up for us or telling them to stop, and they were just giggling about it, thinking it was funny, was just really annoying. But obviously, I think we handled it pretty well by not resulting to violence or anything, because I'm the type of person that would do that if I knew them. But I'm happy that it went the way it did, but not happy that they did not learn their lesson about not being able to do that.
He just did this, and for the whole trip, he did not answer. It was not until this went on for a good like half an hour and he was driving all the way to the airport. And it wasn't until we said that we would make a complaint that he went straight back to Houston and he dropped us where he was supposed to drop us. So I suppose what really came from this was it was completely isolating to feel like our voices were not heard simply because of the color of our skin. He had no problem talking to everyone else on the bus because they were white, and me and Esther, coming from the global south, coming from different places, our voices were not listened to, and that was completely disrespectful.
We were supposed to go swimming, and the teacher was handing out the permission slips, and we were going through like the things you need, like the swimming togs, the swimming hats, and the teacher told us, oh, you can't go swimming because of your braids because it will dirty the water. So we were talking back to the teacher, telling her, oh, that's not how it works, like our braids are clean and that we can go swimming because we were going swimming in primary school as well. So we got detention for talking back to the teacher and being rude. So at the end of the day, all the black people who had braids in the class couldn't go swimming. And while everyone went swimming, we had to stay in class to do extra work.
There is one of you here that came to me a while ago. And you were telling me about something that happened in your school.
So basically, our school got invited to this conference meeting in UCC. So our principal picked me because I did work experience with UCC and I was part of the project. So then she told me to write like a essay on how we feel like we're being treated in the school. So I decided to write about books like To Kill a Mockingbird, Mice and Men, and how the teachers, when they're reading the book, they say the N-word. So I wrote everything out and I read it to the principal. And she was fine with it. She was perfect. So on the day of, she gave me a whole different thing. And she told me to say the complete opposite of what I wanted to say. And so there was this lady who I did the work experience with. And I said it to her. I was like, look, this is not what I want to say, but this is what I'm being forced to say. So I gave her everything that I wanted to say. And she said it for me. And like, it's just kind of like the way I had stuff to say, but my principal wouldn't let me say it. And she was perfect with it on the day before, but then the day of, she changed everything up.
It is painful to actually state and know the obvious. My daughter was the only black child in that competition. She stood out well. There was no excuse for what happened. She felt very upset about what happened.
Probably for a very weak time to forget about it. Painful to see that you have to like beg for an apology later.
They only sent us an apology because the world wanted them to, because we cried for so long. We kind of told her, regardless of your skin color, people shouldn't treat you differently.
Do you guys feel that your schools provide enough awareness or information about racism?
So I feel like schools more nowadays, more often, just like to talk about racism, say how we're the school that faces racism, we don't allow racism in the school. But when racism actually comes into the school, they do nothing about it. They say all this stuff to paint a picture, just get money or get more students to come to their school. I feel like it's all pretty much, propaganda, I would say, like it's not really what they say. Like, they don't care about the students or how they actually feel in the school. They just care about getting that money and representing the school in the highlights.
For me personally, as an experience that I had in school, whenever someone was being racist to me and I had to bring it up to a teacher, it was more like a slap on the wrist. Nothing was brought up like seriously, or they were just told like once off to that's bad, but not that it's not okay to do, or not to like bring it up in a speech or have reprimandings about it. Nothing as of that. So they didn't take it seriously, and there was no change with it.
Just like Divine said, I think that schools do a lot of talking, but not a lot of physical action on racism. For example, in my school, for LGBTQ Day, we dress up in pink and all different colors. But when it's Black History Month, we don't do a lot to promote it. Like, I would say that it's better if, obviously, black racism would be better if they actually did physical actions more than just speaking.
As Nelson said, I feel like they
advertise other stuff more than they advertise racism. Like for, let's say, if there's a Cork match on, they would let people wear red, or for LGBTQ, they wear their own colours. But I feel like if they put more emphasis on racism in Black History Month, I feel like more people will be educated and there won't be as much racism in schools.
As what Dennis and Nelson were saying, they don't really put as much physical effort into racism as for our school. For the LGBTQ, they'll be doing classes and they'll be dressing up and taking pictures before Black History Month. All they did for in our school was just put up a poster and just left it as that and moved on with the day.
I think that schools will talk about in class about how bad racism is and that it shouldn't be done, but then outside of class, if they see someone being discriminated by their skin color, they won't do anything about it.
In school, we do learn about it, and they do like activities, but like outside those things, the students, they will be racist to other students, and sometimes the teacher will be racist to other students as well, and the teachers won't get in trouble for it because the other people think it's okay, and like they do like activities like for Black History Month, but during Black History Month, people will still be racist to you.
My school, I think that like the teachers just talk about racism just to talk about it, but they don't really mean to like stop it or put an end to it.
For all of you, or for those of you that has experienced racism, do you feel in any way that it affects your mental health and well-being? In any way? Do you think that? And can you tell us how?
Obviously, there's people in my class that will be making monkey sounds, or they'll go on their phone and they'll play whip sounds. I feel like you're forced to joke, you're forced to laugh it off, because if you speak up about it, people will think that you're weird, or they'll say you're doing too much, or they'll cut you off, and people won't like you. I feel like you're forced to hide your emotions, and when it builds up, one day you'll just blow, and you'll either fight someone, you'll say the wrong thing out of anger.
I don't think people realize how serious racism affects people's mental health, those that experience it. For me, I came to Ireland at the age of 9, a very young age. Back then, it wasn't so as diverse and open as it is now. I was the only brown girl in my year of school and the only brown girl in my primary school. So I experienced a lot of indifference, a lot of comments, a lot of racism, even from adults, kids, teachers, anyone that was there. I was called a lot of names, and from that I developed social anxiety. So even now, growing up, I think anything I do, anything I wear, how I act, I have to put on a brave face. I have to make sure I look okay. I have to make sure I'm not doing anything stupid, or I feel like anything I do, someone will judge me because I'm not like everyone else. And I knew that from a young age that I'm different. And because I'm different, I have to fit in constantly with everyone. And it really does affect me. I didn't want to go out the house. I didn't want to go anywhere. I wanted to stay in my room for a while. Growing up as a kid, I was very shy, and I still am to this day, but I'm learning to work with it. But I can speak for a lot of other kids. I think they suffer with that too a lot, and a lot more stuff when it comes to their self-confidence and other things that happen with them.
As teenagers born or migrated to Ireland, how do you guys think you can contribute to the fight against racism? What changes would you like to see in society?
I would love to change the world by going to the shop for myself, so people don't have to follow me and think I'm stealing because I'm black.
I feel like more schools should start applying more black teachers, because in my school we have one black teacher, and that's the very first black teacher
in the whole of the school's history, and the school's been running for 50 years. So I'd love to see like a big change in the educational system and like more awareness about like Black History Month in school, and they need to educate their teachers on how to deal with racism and not be a part of it and promote it.
Yeah, Princess.
What we can do to contribute, I feel like we can just involve ourselves more in things like this and kind of like spread awareness to like our friends, our family, that these type of things do exist. And of course, you know, me and Esther are part of the ombudsman, so if you ever have a problem, it's also important to say that you can come to us as well, and we can voice your matters and your opinions on things. And the changes I like to see in society is work 100%, like Faith said. The education system, you know, it's a great thing, but it's also flawed in many ways. And this is an area that it's very flawed in, you know, like on books and stuff on the curriculum that have like the N-word in them. Don't think that's very necessary as well. Like Esther said, classes such as CSB and SPHE can be used to educate more on the topic. And just, you know, the stereotypes, I feel like they can be decreased as well. Like Philip said, following someone in the shop because of their skin colour, I feel it's unfair. And, you know, if we can celebrate Pride Month when people can change their sexuality, then why can't we celebrate, you know, racism and discrimination when skin colour is something that you can change, when your ethnicity is something that you just can't change. So I think that's a really important topic as well.
So what I think can be done about racism is having more events and spreading social awareness. I say the best way to start about that is starting in schools, starting from my primary schools, spreading awareness and make them know what is racism and what to do about racism. I feel like starting in schools, especially primary schools, is the best place to start, to know and help children know what to do to spread awareness and what to do when they encounter a situation when they're being racist against too.
So I think a great way to, you know, stop being affected by racism is try and not to show a reaction, because that's what they want. They want the satisfaction of, you know, being racist towards you and you showing a reaction. I feel like in life everybody goes through something. It's all about perseverance, and that when you go through racism, if you don't show a reaction, you should give them a positive reaction by just smiling. They're not going to get the satisfaction about it. And then eventually they're just going to be like, oh, I'm tired of this. We're not getting the pleasure or the enjoyment of him or her crying. So it's going to be hard. It's definitely going to be hard. In life, everyone has the obstacles they got to overcome. And these are just one of the hurdles. And unfortunately, racism is a big thing for us. But everybody can go through something, and everybody can come out. Just how other people done it. You know, we're not the first generation to experience racism. There was Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, and they all stood up for themselves in a different type of way, shape, or form. So I think that it's up to you. But my advice would be try not to show much of a reaction, because eventually they're going to give up because they're not getting the satisfaction.
So in school, obviously, it's really important to teach people about awareness, because awareness is so incredibly important. And I feel like people don't realise like how severe the situation is. And I think that we have so many opportunities in school to talk about things. For example, in subjects such as CSP and SPHE, why do we play booklets when we have the opportunity to educate people on inclusivity and on the problem of racism and discrimination? And I think it's really important to start from when people are young, because that's a skill that's built into you, and it's something that you continue to learn.
I think a good way to kind of get rid of discrimination as well is if you have friend groups with different races, like Asian, white races, black races, Nigerian, all those races, because if you do that, you get to kind of understand each other's cultures more, and you get to develop a deeper understanding of each other and how you feel when these type of things happen. And I think it's a good way to also understand how we all have our own unique features and cultures, and it's a good way to kind of learn about them all.
So I think a lot of awareness has been done on the LGBTQI+A community, and I think that it's so important for stuff to be done on discrimination and racism also. Why can't we accept racism and discrimination as such a huge problem, but we give people a whole Pride Month, and when Black History Month comes along, we don't even appreciate it? People can change their view on the LGBTQI community. They can change who they want to be. But when you can't change your race, when you can't change where you come from, when you can't change the fact that you are a part of the global south and that will always be with you, why can't we accept these people
November
too?
2023, there was a riot in Dublin, causing a lot of immigrants and people, black, other cultured citizens that live in Ireland, to feel uncomfortable and like they're not welcome here. And it made me feel unwelcome and lonely, because I was feeling threatened in my own country, as I am a citizen of Ireland as well. But I did not feel like I was a citizen of Ireland. these type of things are not acceptable, and it makes people feel like they're not wanted, which is no one wants to feel like they're not wanted, especially in their own country.
So today we heard about the story of many people, which make me feel emotion, a lot of feelings. It was pretty sad to read a lot of stories about racism. I think youth worker, we have to talk about it to spread our awareness, but also it makes me realize that it's very different in France, since we don't talk really about this subject, make people aware that we have to talk about this subject.
I think after the discussions today, it just gives me a huge pit in the stomach about all of the racial discrimination and abuse that still goes on today, even though it's 2024. And it's a battle that's been fought since the beginning of time, and it's time for our generations to put an end to it. And I think as youth workers, we should work together, and we should try to make change in the educational systems. That's something that was brought up a lot today. And it also starts with us whenever we see someone joking on the street, to not put up with it. I know there's lots of times in my life where I've walked past a situation, or we've all laughed it off, or something like that has happened, and it's not right. It starts with us when we say no. And I also think we should do something really cool that what we try to do is culture evenings, where we all get together and we learn about each other's cultures, and we facilitate, I guess, a lot of understanding and tolerance and celebration for each other's cultures. So I think coming together and bringing communities together to learn about where we come from and our traditions and our cultures, so that there's no longer discrimination, but rather celebration and coming together as one human race.
For me personally, as a person of color and a youth worker, I find it heartbreaking to know that kids younger than me are still going through this, and much worse, that it hasn't improved since I came here 10 years ago, but the diversity has expanded a lot. And with that, I feel like we should bring more awareness, maybe in schools, to have more cultural days, more stuff about everyone's diversity in culture, traditions, religions, to speak more about it in subjects like SPHE and all the other ones with it, even religion. We can add that because it's not spoken about a lot, and as a youth worker, I feel that we can help more by Wood Culture Nights too, as Mari said.
I would like to share what happened to us yesterday when we were going to the bowling. One guy in the car just passed close to us and shouted out, like, "Get out of here." This small situation in this context made me reflect a lot, especially from a child point of view, because if you hear these kind of comments since you're a child, it's going to be like the base of your expectation in life. If I hear always bad comments, how I personally gonna believe like I can find my dreams, or just I can have a normal life. I personally believe like the kids, when they meet together and they speak out about the situation, like in this project when we are trying to make a documentary and educate the people, it's one of the best solutions, like to make the people feel empathy and to believe like if you damage the kids' mind, it's like the worst thing like you are doing, because you are destroying the dreams, you're destroying like values, and you're gonna make people feel with a less importance.
Quale è cattiva? Perché è cattiva?
Perché è tutto nero.
E qual è la bambola che ti somiglia di più?
awareness you put out there, it still doesn't change the fact that other people are deciding not to change. It's up to the person themselves to change, because God knows we've been putting out awareness for the past years, 10 years, even more. But there's still racism in the world. There's still discrimination. It's up to the people themselves to change.
It's okay. Things will change. Let's believe it. Yeah, everything's on the right path, doing the right thing. You know, making sure the change happens. And it will happen, okay?
Yes, we've been spreading awareness for so long.
We don't stop until we see the change happen. Remember how slavery was abolished? It didn't happen in one day. It takes time, but it will happen. Yeah, let's believe it, okay?
So I suppose you asked about like experience, and I suppose you were really hinting that you kind of wanted us to speak about, from someone's perspective, to speak about, you know, racism and, you know, like firsthand, you know, microaggression. And I suppose for me, through my experience, I genuinely do think, like, even like since I was younger, you know, as a Black Irish person, you know, it's I don't know, they're like, since the minute you get into school, there's a sort of like a dynamic where it's like, you know, like if you're Black, you're not really seen as Irish, and that, you know, that was like a bigger thing when I was younger, and it's gotten better over the years, and I'm really happy about that, and it's something to be grateful for. But I think I genuinely think it does come with education. You know, the process of learning, the process of, you know, like even just, you know, if you like, it's like if you bring in like food, you know, food that like traditional food that you haven't seen, or it's kind of like when they ask you like, oh, do you celebrate? I remember I got asked, I think I was in 6th class, and I got asked by my teacher, and they said, do you eat the normal food that we eat on Christmas? And I mean, like, do you exchange gifts in the morning? And I mean, it drove me insane that, like, you know, that was actually a question that could be asked. And I mean, like, like sometimes it's fine. Like, is the hair, do you know, is the hair real? Do you know, if I come in with hair, like different hair every month, and I get it, like it's irregular, it's not usual. But I think it generally does come with experience, and it comes with education as well. And I think it's not just education of the older generation, but I think it actually starts with more so education of the younger generation.
And
so that we
that's
can
where the
prevent
curriculum
this
comes from.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Thank you very much.
Education is literally all of it. I think education from all ages, to all backgrounds, to anywhere you come from. If you've lived here your whole life or you've just moved here, doesn't really matter. You should be given some sort of education. It should be provided. You should be supported. But like you were saying, there is covert racism, and I'm just going to read a quote here from a child in secondary school. We had an event on for Pride, and everyone showed up. Everyone was in colour, and there was music. But then next week, there was an event addressing racism. No one showed up. And not even the people of colour in my school, because they were scared to support themselves, because there is a stigma around that. And we've seen over the years that we can reduce stigma and we can fight stigma by talking. The more talking that we do, the more education that we have, we're going to bring that stigma down. It's going to be easier to talk about it. Just like mental health week, like this is something that can be talked about. We can be provided education, we can give others education. And multiculturalism is the biggest thing that we need to enforce at the minute.
Discrimination affects 9 out of 10 people in the global south.
But we decided to use our voices. We need a more inclusive Ireland.
There's only one race.
The human race.
We live in a multi-diverse society.
It's important that we all respect each other's ethnicities and where we come from.
This is our documentary we did. I hope you like it.